So, what do you want in your next car? Space? Fuel economy? Performance? If the answer is yes, VW would like to think this is motorized manna. Let's see if it has a prayer of delivering on all those fronts as we check out the 2011 VW Touareg Hybrid and check the tech. The Touareg is Volkswagen's Cayenne, with one big difference. The Cayenne is Porsche's best-selling product. The Touareg, VW's worst. They share a hybrid power plant and transmission, as well as frame shell and doors. Beyond that, the two diverge a lot. Don't tell your friends you bought a Cayenne that just costs less. They'll think you're a tool. Well, let's talk about interface in this Touareg Hybrid. You've got two good places, which I couldn't say about a VW until just about today. First of all, here's your main screen. This is a whole new rig for VW if you haven't been in one lately. Anywhere from the navigation map, which looks really good, nicely rendered, good dot pitch. You got your 3D, a little bit of topo going on there, 2D as well. You can look at traffic as a contextual list, or you can have it displayed on the map, of course. And as I bounce through things like climate settings and other screens, you can see you've got a nice big touchscreen. Big buttons, very Ford-like in that sense from earlier Ford systems. But it's got a partner screen also, which is really kind of in the class of some of the BMW and Mercedes helper screens. In there between the gauges, kind of a wall-to-wall LCD, and it gives you all kinds of other information you can plug into by using this rocker on the wheel. And that'll get you from navigation, audio, telephone, or vehicle. Now what you drive with in there, as I showed you, is navigation, of course. And you've got this sort of menu bar instead of lots of busy buttons around here. So again, these are dynamic. Here's where you would change your map orientation. I like how it focuses things to little small buckets of function, as opposed to giving me huge nested submenus. And you've got some other relevant stuff. This isn't about destination, but it pulls up the Bluetooth streaming media screen, or whatever's your media right now, to kind of have that all in one place, because they're realizing you're going to have the destination up and want to keep it up while other stuff takes place. Now let's move on to our media choices here. I like how when you go to media, you just get what you're playing now, and then if you want to dive into sources, you open that up to expand. That's kind of the right way to orient my top-of-mind awareness of what I'm doing. You have a built-in hard drive in this car. You've also got Bluetooth streaming media. I've got my phone hooked up now. The Bluetooth streaming's pretty slick. You've got full readout of metadata, as well as transport control. Now here's where we get into some fun. SD card, internal CD. I guess you can option an external changer on this guy. Where would they hide that? Aha! Over to the glove box. What is this? Pull the yellow tab. It's kind of like when you're on a jetliner heading down into the ocean. And down, slowly, drops this little deal here, very 007-ish. Here's where you've got your single optical disc player and two SD card slots. But both those media are outdated. I'd gut this thing, keep a Glock in there with an extra clip. Oh, by the way, see that connector down there? That's one of those multimedia interface deals. VW didn't see fit to give us any of the proprietary cables that go with it, but you could use that to create a USB female pigtail, an aux female, an iPod connector, etc., and those would pop up on the source. The rear view camera has, as you can see, trajectory and distance. Plus, you can decide to option in or out this overlay screen of what the distance sensors are showing you. So that's kind of a nice rich interface for debumping into stuff. You've also got this mode over here on the right, this ribbon that lets you decide on sensors and sensor overlays and some camera positions. It's almost more than you're ever going to want to screw with, but it's a nice toy. You have one choice of transmission in this guy. It's an 8-speed automatic. It's technically a Tiptronic from the Porsche Audi VW family. You move it to drive or kick it over here to tip it into different gears. You've also got a sport mode back here, which we'll check out when we get on the road. And right next to that, you've got your E mode for extremely economical running. It biases the car more toward efficiency than even drive, and of course, even more than sport. Here's your all-wheel drive control. 4Motion is very simply implemented on this car. You're either on-road or you're off-road. The Touareg has a very cool headlight technology developed by Hella. A forward-scanning camera constantly evaluates oncoming headlights and reshapes the beam cutoff of your Touareg's headlights in real time to give you maximum lighting without blinding them. I think it's the only car in the world to do that. Very cool. We've got a 3-liter V6, not necessarily just direct injection, because you'd see TDI here. We have TSI. So direct injection combines with supercharging. Here's a supercharger here, here's the nose pulley, here's your intake plenum. So this is a very different thing than you're used to on any hybrid, except this and the Cayenne, which has the same motor. It's an Audi motor, by the way. You can tell by all these various fittings. Those valve covers are a dead giveaway. Oh yeah, so is the Audi logo on front of the cam here. This guy will get you 380 horsepower, 425 foot-pounds of torque. Lots of torque because superchargers are torquey, electric motors are torquey. This guy, of course, has one sandwiched between the engine and the transmission. 0 to 60 is 6.2 seconds. For a vehicle that weighs 5135 without you in it, that's pretty impressive. MPG, not so much so, 2024. But given the whole package, how big it is and how fast it moves, I guess that's something of a win.
Now, driving this Touareg supercharged hybrid is an interesting mixed bag of experiences. You've got these two drive modes. There's drive and there's sport. And you've got this E mode, as I pointed out. Jekyll and Hyde going on here. This car can be the biggest slug you've ever driven. If you poke along in D and eco mode, it's real disconnected, real rubbery. Long delay. It's like steering the Titanic, you know? Gotta make a left turn, give me 5 minutes. Well, on this thing, it's like, got to accelerate to get in that hole up there, give me 5 seconds. That's a long time. But once you get this guy into, let's say, sport mode, or mix the gears yourself, all those gobs of supercharged and electric torque come on, and you can absolutely punch out of a hole. Now, I didn't get this guy off-road, so I can't tell you much about how it does there. But one last note about driving is visibility in this vehicle. Very interesting. A square-cornered mirror, you don't see that very often, looks out a very square backlight to the rear, which maximizes the amount of visible area. And as I look over the corners, this car actually has very little in the way of blind spots. I mean, they're there like any modern car, thick pillars, but they've done a really good job carving a lot of holes in this vehicle. So it's better than most at staying visible. And of course, I love this panoramic roof. This is one of the most panoramic of the panoramic roofs that are so much in vogue these days. You really feel the airiness in this guy, which it actually doesn't print that airy from the outside, but when you're inside, it's very nice light greenhouse.
Now, before you pull the trigger on a Touareg Hybrid, you gotta pencil out the TDI version, the turbo diesel. Check it out. The Hybrid gets 2024 mpg. The diesel, 1928. The Hybrid gets to 60 in 6.2. The diesel takes 7.9. The Hybrid costs about 61 grand. The diesel about 48,000. Though you will have to spend a few thousand more to get things like the panoramic roof. Still, you'll save many thousands and get the TDI's lovable torque curve. And I'll bet the TDI doesn't feel half as much slower as the numbers suggest. Okay, let's price this Touareg Hybrid. It's about $61,500 delivered, and that's about it. There are no tech options. There are hardly any options, except for, like, color. Now, you got to compare it to the turbo diesel. You owe that to yourself. Test drive them both head-to-head. The diesel costs a lot less. It needs a few thousand more in it to get the equipment the same, but you got to do the math on that one. And the janky powertrain here could be a deal breaker no matter what.